This is Average Sports.
By your average guys.
Eric.
And Ty. That would be so bad.
Yeah. This is Average Sports.
Your average sports.
Average Sports.
Thanks for tuning into another episode of
You're listening to Average Sports with your average guys.
Average Sports, average guys, Eric and Ty.
That's right. You do have a tune into Average Sports with your average guys. And we got an average episode coming your way. It's a quick recap on all the major sports that are happening, including the NFL, which is just about to begin as we record this. It's Thursday, September 10th, and the Kansas City Chiefs are going to take on the Houston Texans for the first game of the 2020 season. They're on track, and we're going to talk about that more along with other things happening. And Eric is on the line with me here. What's happening, Eric? How are you?
Hey.
Yay.
Doing good.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful day. I'm excited because tonight is the official kickoff of this very strange NFL season that we have. The Texans and the Chiefs are kicking off the NFL season tonight, so I'm super excited about that.
Yeah. Like I said, we'll talk more about it, but we like to start off every episode with a butthole in sports. On something that just wasn't savory that happened in the sports universe. And I picked out in the U.S. Open. Did you see Djokovic get disqualified?
Yeah, this is a pretty good one. But almost, I don't know. He seemed to genuinely apologize and genuinely feel bad after being frustrated.
Yep.
And just kind of, he seemed to accept his fate with it. But yeah, this one caught him, and he's a butthole in sports this week for knocking a tennis ball into one of the line judges' throats. And when I read the headline, what I thought was he just legit took it and overhanded it. The way that they wrote the headline was Djokovic nails line judge in the throat or whatever the case is. So I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Now this is a normal occurrence in the sport, just mind you. So when tennis players are just batting the ball back to a judge or a runner, whoever's collecting the tennis balls, to change them out, it's very akin to a catcher or a pitcher changing the baseball with an umpire. He just did a little harder than he probably should. It was a bit of a misstep. So I'd go as far as maybe just saying he's an armpit in sports. But the video is a little rough. Taking one right in the throat like that had to suck. So he's not in it anymore, and he was ranked number 1. So it's going to be interesting who takes advantage of crowning the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
What else is happening, though? We got to talk about playoffs, Eric. NBA, NHL, some good stuff happening. I got to hand it to you. You called it. The Heat. I mean, they practically ran away with that series. They only had to play at Game 5 just because the Bucks hung in there in overtime, I believe, just to actually steal one from them. But man, it was
Heat.
Yeah,
Heat looked good.
Yep.
They have lockdown defense. They have shooters galore all throughout, but then they also have a couple players that can play down low. Someone like Jimmy Butler can drive. Gordon Dragic can drive and get down in the lane as well too. But they have just so many shooters on the outside that can just completely take advantage, and their defense is top notch. This team is definitely overachieving. Let's not get that wrong. But this was certainly a really bad matchup for the Bucks. And there's a lot of people out there questioning Giannis's actual ability to do something. As far as being the greatest player in the league right now. A lot of people have been doubting him after last year's exit and this year's exit. So
and he struggled with a little bit of injury, I know, in the last series. And if he's on the court, I mean, who's there to back him up? And we talked about the depth and that being an issue in Milwaukee. So next year will just be another year for him. We'll see how they can rebound.
They got an interesting offseason. So the Bucks are most likely, Giannis is a free agent. So the Bucks are going to look very differently, because I don't think, unless the Bucks are offering him a supermax, and even then, I don't know that he stays. I think he goes to a bigger market. And honestly, I've been eyeing Miami as that market. Pat Riley's been very vocal about wanting to get him to the Miami Heat. So to pair him with Jimmy Butler, taking his talents to South Beach, to pair him with Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, and the rest of that team would be superstar team.
It'll be interesting to follow, and we will certainly talk about it during the winter episodes, but staying focused on what's happening right now. Miami does not have an opponent yet for the finals because Boston is being taken to Game 7 with Toronto Raptors, the defending champions. So that'll be a good game to watch and take a look at. But on the West side, the only series really kind of keeping an eye on, or worth keeping an eye on, is the Lakers and Houston series. But the Lakers, after dropping the first game, have come back and won 2 straight. Denver, though, is down against the Clippers 1-3. So likely the matchup that we were talking about for weeks now is the LA matchup, and that'll be a fun conference finals to see. But we'll see how Houston responds in Game 4 after struggling through the last couple of matchups. But I know LeBron and the whole Lakers team, is popping off lately. So
yeah, I mean, Houston definitely has some top end talent with Russell Westbrook and James Harden. But so the Lakers, but the Lakers are just a deeper team, I think. So I think that's what it'll come down to.
Right. And moving on over to hockey. Well, the Flyers were doing a great job. They looked like they were going to hang in there, and they just did not have what it took to battle the Islanders, rather. So congratulations to those guys moving on to the conference finals. New York now, though, struggling against Tampa Bay. They lost the first 2 games of that series.
The first one was really rough. They were completely outmatched. Last night, they looked much better than Tampa, but Vasilevsky was definitely up to the task in goal, and the Islanders got a super late goal with like 10 seconds left in the third period.
Right.
So that's a backbreaker for the Islanders. I don't know if they don't come out with a whole lot of fire in game number 3 in that first period, they may be done. So.
Yep. Well, and they are certainly a Cinderella team. Being 6th seed, they are, beating the odds, you could say, on some of these teams. But Tampa, they are a talented club, so it's not surprising that they may walk away with this series, no problem. Now, on the west of that, the Western Conference Finals, Dallas is a bit of a surprise, even though they're a 3 seed. They took Avalanche. They handled that series. They stepped up, and even though it went to a Game 7, that was quite surprising on how good they've been. They've showed up to play.
It was surprising to an extent. The Avalanche top players did what the Avalanche's top players do, and they scored a ton of goals. Nathan MacKinnon was, everything that he's been advertised, but the depth of Colorado completely disappeared in this series, and Dallas really took it to him on in that third and fourth line. And, and if you watch any of the games, there was no momentum in any of them. It went, goal for Dallas, goal for Avalanche, and then, 30 seconds later, goal for Dallas. It was, a lot of speed on both teams.
Right.
And it was a super exciting series to watch. And the way that Colorado went into the playoffs through the qualifying round, you looked at Colorado and you looked at Philadelphia, and you're like, wow, these 2 teams are super good, and they both got bounced in the second round.
Yep.
They just didn't have it any left. So we're looking at a series 1-1 between Vegas and Dallas.
Right.
So
I'm definitely tuning in for those games. Should be an interesting series. That's another one that has the potential of going to a Game 7, which of course would be very exciting heading into the Stanley Cup playoff finals. And we'll follow up on the outcome of that one as well. So let's jump in, though, to the topic. We're several minutes into this episode, so let's get into some meat and potatoes. As we mentioned, the NFL is coming back. We're here. They did it. They said they were going to start on schedule, and essentially they've lived up to that end of the bargain, outside of not having the preseason games. But everything else is happening the way it's supposed to, and they have no college football really to compete with. There's some, but it's a good time to be an NFL owner, I feel like.
Yeah, there's a little bit of college football to compete with, but at the same time, I think college football knows their place.
Yeah.
And it's on Saturday, and it is not trying to compete with the NFL. Back in the day, you used to see college football games on Thursday, and that was a big deal. And now they're not anymore, because the NFL, even though they put their crappiest games, it seems like every year on Thursday, outside of the opening week, it crushes college football, whatever they could put there. So I think college football knows its place, and it's not trying to compete with the NFL, because it's not gonna win that game. But I'm interested to see. I feel like, so far the NFL is doing very good, but everything's very contained. Everything is within these teams. and nothing is kind of going outside of that. They're about to start traveling. They are about to start, now competing against, these other teams and actually playing games. I have a feeling that we may see something similar to kind of what baseball got off to a start with the Marlins and the Cardinals, where they were shut down for, several games, a couple weeks for the Cardinals and like a week for the Marlins, for not being able to play, kind of once they were starting to compete. So we'll see how strict the NFL truly is with their players, with, going out and kind of giving them free reign, where Major League Baseball kind of had a soft stance on it, which doesn't really surprise me because baseball's behind the times on everything.
Yep. Oh, well, let's talk about, though, also just kind of what do we expect, though, when it comes to, how we are going to engage with the sport. I mean, there's going to be no fans in the arenas and the stadiums. So, what's besides that difference? Are we going to see much in terms of big change for the NFL? I mean, baseball went through several new rules, which has been very interesting to see. In the this has almost been like a trial for a number of those rules. But is there a whole lot of other big differences we could expect?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that we're really going to see, home field advantage not play a part, and a lot of these teams that see a huge benefit from it. You think Kansas City, you think Seattle, as far as like the top two teams that get really big home field advantage boosts, or things like that, especially from the crowd noise. In those two particular places are the two I always go to, and that's going to be removed. I mean, I think some places, depending on state and local governments, are allowing like 20-25% capacity in some of these places, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty empty. And I'm wondering how they are adapting to fan experience for how we consume the sport. Are they going to be doing anything different, kind of like maybe what NBA did, or what NHL is doing, and really making it super nice and really trying to bring fans in as much as possible? Or are they just going to have empty stadiums and kind of make it look like baseball, which is kind of a drag and it looks really bad? So I'm curious to see how they're going to make this work, but we will certainly find out, over this next couple of days and kind of really what it looks like. And I don't know that it's going to have an impact on players too much. I think for the most part, a lot of times they're just involved in the game. Right. They're out there doing their job. So there's not going to be much of a Lambeau leap or anything like that so much. And if it happens, it'd be interesting to see what some of the touchdown celebrations will look like. But that fan interaction, which does happen in the sport, certainly perhaps even more so than some of the other sports when we're talking about touchdowns, and even just heading back to the locker room. I mean, you see that interaction. And that's what fans are really excited about. I think when they're there, it's that get to be with the team kind of thing. Yeah, that's going to be missed. It'll be interesting to see if that makes a large impact or if it's noticeable at all. But I think that's a good segue though into. In our week one, we're here. We're only a couple days away from all the teams playing. What team do you think, for our Who You Got, Eric, is going to have the most impressive performance? Kind of like a sleeper team that we wouldn't expect. Yeah, I mean, I think that, that's a tough question. I mean, there's an individual that I'm really excited to watch and see what the opportunity is. Okay. And it is on a team that nobody really cares about, even though they have one of the largest fan bases in all of football. But it's the Washington football team. It's Antonio Gibson. I'm super excited to see what he's going to do and what the situation is. They cut Adrian Peterson. Really it's him is the one that's mostly going to be getting the 3-down work based off of, what I've been looking at and what I've been seeing. He's definitely the most talented. He's definitely the most electric of that backfield, but he's certainly going to be sharing some of that work with J.D. McKissick and Peyton Barber. But I'm I'm interested to see how that kind of plays out and what happens there as far as an individual. As far as a team that I'm really excited to watch, it's the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm interested to see how Joe Burrow comes out. I want to see, if